What everyone has been waiting for so long has finally happened. The two most flamboyant billionaires and political heavyweights of our time have clashed in an open confrontation. Elon Musk and Donald Trump have had a public falling out, and this time it's truly serious. Both sides have hurled accusations at each other. Musk called for Trump to be impeached and made a thinly veiled reference to his ties with the notorious financier Jeffrey Epstein. In other words, he essentially accused those mentioned in the so-called Epstein list of pedophilia and covering up for it. In response, Trump threatened to strip Musk's company of all federal contracts and government subsidies. Quite literally, a high-level brawl broke out on Twitter and Truth Social in front of millions of onlookers. How serious did things get? Judge for yourself. Tesla's shares plummeted by 14% overnight, wiping out about $150 billion of the company's market value after Trump threatened to cut off the lifeblood of Musk's business empire. Musk himself, in turn, went all in. Not only did he support the idea of impeachment, but he also announced that he would begin decommissioning SpaceX's Dragon spacecraft, which are critically important for NASA, although he later wrote that he would hold off on this particular measure for now. In other words, the conflict threatens to escalate beyond all bounds. Online squabbles are already affecting the real economy and even the space industry. It's the perfect time to grab some popcorn and analyze why they had a falling out, what this could lead to, and who will come out on top. And at the end, I'll tell you about how, should I put it my favorite segment, schizo theories about America. I have plenty of them. And I have another one about Musk. I believe he could simply destroy Trump, but more on that later. First, let's sort out the facts and what's actually happening. To understand the drama of the current conflict, we need to recall how these two even crossed paths in the first place. Initially, Elon Musk was not a fan of Donald Trump at all. On the contrary, on the eve of the 2016 election, he openly stated that Trump was not the right person for the presidency and did not possess the qualities that would reflect the best side of the United States. Nevertheless, after Trump's victory, the pragmatic Musk tried to build bridges and joined several advisory councils at the White House, for example, the Manufacturing Council at the beginning of 2017. This honeymoon period didn't last long. Just a few months later, Musk demonstratively left all the councils in protest against Trump's decision to withdraw the US from the Paris Climate Agreement. "Climate change is real," he wrote. "Leaving Paris is not good for America or the world," he tweeted back then in June 2017, slamming the door behind him. But the ties were not completely severed. Musk continued to receive generous government contracts. In particular, his company SpaceX was already collaborating with NASA on multi-billion-dollar projects. And even Trump himself, despite that episode, treated Musk with clear admiration. In 2020, commenting on SpaceX's achievements, Trump called Elon one of our great geniuses and said that people like him need to be protected. In public, he showered him with praise, noting Musk's fantastic work and calling him a big guy with a great brain. It seemed that the eccentric visionary Musk appealed to the eccentric populist Trump, at least in words. However, the idyll did not last long. By the middle of Trump's first term, the first rift had appeared between them. In 2022, Musk abruptly broke with the Democrats and announced that from now on he supports the Republicans. But almost immediately, a quarrel broke out with Trump himself in July 2022, when Trump hinted at his new run for office. Musk publicly stated that it was time for Trump to hang up his hat and ride off into the sunset, calling on him to leave politics. Trump did not let it slide. At a rally in Alaska, he called Musk another swindler. Bullshit artist. And he boasted that, without government subsidies, Musk's company was worth nothing. The spat on social media raged for a couple of days, after which things calmed down. But the warning signal was clear. Two egocentric heavyweights would not be able to share the same pedestal for long. By the end of 2022, however, their relationship had warmed up again. Musk bought Twitter and immediately reinstated Trump's account, lifting the ban on the former president a couple of years after the storming of the Capitol. By that time, Trump was already running for office again, and Musk flirted for a while with his competitors. In particular, he gave the floor to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, organizing the infamously glitchy campaign livestream on Twitter Space. But in the end, the pragmatic Musk placed his bet on the most likely winner, that is, on Trump. In the summer of 2024, after the attempted assassination of Trump, Musk officially endorsed his campaign. Moreover, he invested enormous sums in Trump's return to the White House, according to media reports, nearly $300 million in support of the Republican, making him the largest donor of the 2024 election. These investments paid off. Trump won, and Musk's moment of glory arrived. The billionaire did not want to remain just an outside sponsor. He entered into power. The new president brought Musk onto his team as an advisor and even created a special structure for him to audit and optimize the federal government, a so-called Department of Efficiency. And it was called the Department of Government Efficiency, which shortens to DOGE, as if hinting at Musk's favorite crypto thing. But still, I prefer to call it DOGE. Armed with this mandate, Elon set about diligently cutting crutches, slashing agency budgets, and firing what he considered to be thousands of unnecessary officials. At first, Trump was thrilled. Of course, after all, Musk was essentially fulfilling the long-held dream of some conservative voters for a government without fat, that is, without unnecessary spending. In the first months of 25, the Trump-Musk tandem looked like the perfect alliance between a populist and a technocrat. But discontent was already brewing behind the scenes, and basically this was more or less obvious to anyone who had ever seen two narcissistic sociopaths come together. What's the matter? Only the lazy, myself included, didn't assume that Musk would be kicked out of the White House like plywood over Paris. Some of Trump's old allies regarded the suddenly risen upstart in their ranks with suspicion. For example, former White House strategist Steve Bannon warned, even before the 2025 inauguration, that sooner or later Trump and Musk would fall out because Elon pursues his own interests, not the ideals of America first. Two high-ranking administration officials were reportedly unhappy with Musk's interference in their departments. While Trump publicly praised Musk, tensions were building behind the scenes, and soon they spilled out into the open. We have already discussed this with you in detail, both the conflict with Rubio and the disagreements with DeSantis. In short, Musk managed to get into a fight with the entire administration. In the spring of 2025, the contradictions between Musk and Trump spilled out into the open. The stumbling block was Trump's massive tax and budget package, the very same Big Beautiful Bill Act on which the president had built his entire economic policy. Musk considered this bill to be catastrophically wasteful. Barely having left his post in the administration, he moved into opposition to his boss's initiative and launched a full-fledged campaign against the beautiful bill. At the end of May, Elon gave an interview and began loudly criticizing the bill on social media, calling it a disgusting creation and a disgrace to Congress. According to Musk, the bill does not reduce but rather inflates the federal deficit, which is in principle true. On June 4th, Musk took to Twitter to urge senators to reject this package of generous borrowing, directly demanding, "Kill the bill." He even recalled Trump's own past words about the national debt being too high, sarcastically asking, "Where is that Donald now, the one who said that?" It should be noted here that this is no longer just some public insult or name-calling. This is a direct political call for senators to block a bill that has already struggled to pass through the House of Representatives. And now we get to the heart of the matter. During a meeting in the Oval Office with German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, Donald Trump for the first time publicly spoke negatively about Elon Musk. He told reporters that he is extremely disappointed in Musk, even though they used to have an excellent relationship, and he's not sure if it will remain that way in the future. The president emphasized that Musk was fully aware of all the inner workings of the upcoming tax bill budget and did not object to it until the benefits for electric vehicles were removed. Musk began publicly responding to the president on Twitter. At first, he directly refuted Trump's words. In fact, he outright rejected them. Musk published a post calling the claim that he supported the bill a lie. "Lies," he wrote. "I was never even shown this bill. It was pushed through in the middle of the night so quickly that almost no one in Congress had time to read it. After Trump's attacks," Musk also reminded everyone that without his support, Trump would not have won the election and the Republicans would not have gained a majority in Congress. "Such ingratitude," he wrote on Twitter, "either accidentally or deliberately echoing J.D. Vance's complaint to Zelensky during the scandal between the Ukrainian president and America at the White House." Donald Trump responded to Musk on Truth Social, starting with personal jabs. He claims that he himself asked Musk to leave the administration, since by that time Elon had worn out his welcome-wearing thin end, cancelled the imposed requirement to purchase electric vehicles, something Musk had known about for months. After that, Musk simply went crazy, Trump writes. Trump also openly threatened to strip Musk's company of government support. "The easiest way to save money is to cancel Elon's government subsidies and contracts. I've always wondered why Biden didn't do that," the president wrote. These threats, made live on air, quickly caused Tesla's stock to plummet by 14 to 15% in just 3 hours. But that wasn't the end of it. The spat escalated to a new level. Musk drops a bombshell. This is a quote from his Twitter. Posting memes and facts against Trump, he specifically shared an old tweet from Trump himself and hinted at the Epstein scandal. It was stated that Donald Trump's surname appeared on the client list of the late financier Jeffrey Epstein, who was convicted of sex trafficking. This is allegedly the real reason why the Epstein files have not yet been declassified. Real Donald Trump, he tagged Trump, is on Epstein's lists. That's why these files have never been published, Musk wrote, adding sarcastically, "Have a nice day, DJT, Donald J. Trump." He did not provide any direct evidence for this. However, the conflict has become extremely intense. As the media note, within just an hour or two of the most influential people exchanged a series of accusations on social media. It's important to understand here that Musk isn't just throwing out information about Trump being on some lists. In circles of Musk's fans, and Trump's as well, the Epstein story is a theory that Jeffrey Epstein invited all sorts of famous and influential people to his island, thereby collecting compromising material on them, because there they would have relations with minors, with children. After a case was opened against him and he was arrested, he supposedly committed suicide in his cell. I won't go into the full lore of this whole story, but basically very few people believe he actually killed himself. There really are a lot of oddities about it. The guards were supposed to check on him regularly, but for several hours before his death, this didn't happen. In fact, they weren't checking on him at all. And the surveillance cameras in some areas weren't working. And all of this comes from the official version. But just so you understand, Musk's accusations aren't just about being friends with Epstein, but about Trump actually being on this man's client list. An additional reason fueling all these rumors is the fact that the files on this case are classified. And before the elections, Trump was asked whether he would declassify various cases. And regarding the Kennedy assassination, he said, yes, of course. And the files were indeed published, but nothing interesting was found in them. But when it came to the Epstein files, he said he didn't see any point in doing that. In short, rumors about Trump's connections with Epstein have been circulating for a long time, and they even have photos together. It's known that the current president used to hang out with him. But coming from Musk, this is literally an accusation of pedophilia. And if you look at American Twitter, you'll see that everyone interpreted Musk's statement exactly that way. Well, the second thing Musk is actually accusing Trump of is essentially hiding files. Not bad, huh? After that, Trump makes another post on Truth Social trying to justify his bill and take a jab at Musk. He writes that he doesn't mind that Elon turned against me, but he should have done it months ago. This is one of the greatest bills ever introduced to Congress. Trump also told reporters that the fuss over Musk's criticism doesn't distract him and is motivated by Musk's own business interests. Musk escalates, threatening radical measures. In response to the threats to terminate the contract, he announces on Twitter, in light of the president's statement about canceling my government contracts, SpaceX will immediately begin decommissioning the Dragon spacecraft. This would mean stopping the transportation of NASA astronauts to the ISS by American means. In other words, essentially, they would probably have to go back to Russia, which was handling the transportation. Crew Dragon is the only manned spacecraft the US has at this point. A few minutes later, well, maybe a bit longer, Musk cools down and adds, "Good advice. All right, we won't decommission Dragon," he writes in a reply. In response to a user's comment, who urged both sides to cool down and take a break. By the way, the account that posted this comment has only 120 followers, so never underestimate the power of your own voice. But that's not all. Wasn't it enough for you to have accusations of pedophilia and threats to leave the American space program without its main means of delivering astronauts? Musk decided to add more fuel to the fire. He supported the idea of impeaching Trump. At that moment, a Twitter user with the nickname Alaska left a comment. "The president versus Elon. Who will win? I'm betting on Elon. Trump should be impeached, and his place should be taken by J.D. Vance." 11 minutes later, Musk briefly quoted this tweet and replied, "Yes," effectively agreeing with the need for impeachment and for replacing the president with Vice President J.D. Vance. Toward the evening, the intense phase of the conflict began to subside. Soon after, Trump made a statement in the evening by American time, and therefore already late at night in the European time zone. Trump soon declares that he's not bothered by Musk's attacks and publicly tries to put an end to the quarrel. The White House emphasized that Elon is criticizing the president because his business interests are under threat, especially after the withdrawal of Musk's ally Jared Isaacman's candidacy for the position of NASA chief. Nevertheless, observers note that the breakup of the Trump-Musk alliance happened rapidly and demonstratively. It was on June 5 that only a few hours passed between the disgusting bill and going crazy and the calls for impeachment. We all expected something like this, but the manner and speed, of course, are astonishing. By the evening of June 5, as I already mentioned, Tesla's shares had dropped by 14 to 15%, resulting in about $150 billion vanishing from the company's market capitalization. Musk's personal fortune decreased by approximately 34 to 35 billion. By the way, if you think that's all Musk wrote, then you probably have never seen his Twitter. He is a true shitposter, churning out dozens of tweets, replies, and retweets per hour. So there were also tons of memes, insults, and everything else. But none of that is as interesting as what I described above. Before we discuss what is now possible, let's take a look at what actually caused the conflict. And is it really true that Musk is simply very much against government spending and Billy Trump, with whom, by the way, he was running in the election? Analysts in the West are putting forward several theories about the sudden conflict ranging from a simple clash of ambitions to deep ideological contradictions and self-interest. Let's start with those declared by Musk himself. Ideological differences. Musk joined Trump's team as a fan of sequestration optimization. He insists that he was seriously determined to cut federal spending by trillions. Some analysts believe his disappointment is entirely genuine. Instead of draining the swamp and reducing the debt, the president proposed a bill that could add between 2.4 and 5 trillion in new government spending. For Elon, who publicly professes libertarian views, this became a personal blow to his principles, analysts write. As the press notes, he sees Trump's big, beautiful bill as a betrayal of the ideals of fiscal restraint. Musk was genuinely afraid of a growing deficit and the resulting stagnation. It's no coincidence that he directly warned about an impending recession due to Trump's policies. In this interpretation, the conflict is an ideological split between Musk, a so-called fiscal hawk, and a populist who cares more about immediate political gains than long-term budget numbers. But in my opinion, this version is weak, because Musk's company has always relied on subsidies, and the big beautiful bill is exactly what was present throughout Trump's election campaign, which Musk supported. So I think he's a libertarian when it suits him, and when something else is needed, he becomes a communist. Well, in America, it's common to call anyone who isn't for wild capitalism a communist. The rivalry of ambition and ego is the most understandable and widespread trope, which in fact you could have seen in my videos about this sweet couple. Neither Trump nor Musk is used to playing second fiddle. Each of them is used to being the main one, the main star in their own show. Many observers predicted in advance that sooner or later these two titans would not be able to share the stage. Both are prone to aggressive rhetoric, both love social media, and both like to sort things out in public.
It's no surprise that their partnership had an expiration date. As Musk's influence in Washington grew, Trump might have started to see him as a threat to his own dominance. And reportedly, the president's inner circle was indignant as well. A tech magnate who seemed to come out of nowhere was telling seasoned bureaucrats what to do. All of this created fertile ground for a clash of egos, as Reuters summarizes. This quarrel was not a surprise at all. The ambitions were simply too big to coexist peacefully. And all of that, of course, is true. But where is the trigger not just for the breakup of a star duo, but for such a serious conflict? And here we come to economic interests and to Trump's version of events. Trump explains Musk's behavior simply. He didn't like that the benefits for electric vehicles were removed from the bill. And in general, Elon misses the attention he used to get at the White House. Indeed, the law hits Tesla's business model, and the threat of breaking contracts affects Musk's SpaceX. There were quite utilitarian reasons to be outraged. On top of everything else, Trump offended Musk by removing him from his position, showing ingratitude. Musk himself has repeatedly emphasized that without him, Trump would not have won the election. Thus, the conflict can also be seen as a clash of mutual grievances. Trump believes that Musk has become disobedient out of greed and a thirst for power. Musk believes that Trump betrayed their shared ideals and did not appreciate his contribution. There is also Steve Bannon's version, the outsider, among his own. Former Trump strategist Steve Bannon, long before the split, insisted that this was inevitable. In his view, Musk was an outsider from the start who joined the MAGA camp out of self-interest. Bannon now gleefully declares Musk betrayed the president by trying to bury his excellent bill, and from now on, the MAGA movement is completely done with him. Sounds fantastic. Musk has long been a US citizen, and you probably can't just deport him like that. But that hasn't really stopped the Trump administration in other cases. The fact remains, against him they're ready to use again, probably against him part of the MAGA electorate is ready or calling to use the heaviest artillery. If the conflict deepens, it's quite possible that there will be official investigations ranging from tax inspections to congressional hearings, all aimed at digging up something compromising on Musk. And there's plenty of that. Essentially, they're trying to turn him into an enemy of the state. Their reputational damage for Musk is also enormous. From being a hero to techno-utopians and a guy of their own for the right, he's now visibly turning into a pariah for a significant part of the establishment. Trump's magical stance means that the Republican Party will most likely side with the president. And that means Musk is losing his political cover. His social network, Twitter, could become filled with hostility from former Trump-supporting fans. Even Tesla and SpaceX customers might start wondering whether they should boycott the products of a traitor. And that's considering that customers from Musk's previous era, when he supported the Democrats, have already sold their Teslas or put on stickers saying, "I bought it before Musk became a fascist." Now, perhaps Trump supporters driving Teslas will have their own stickers as well. Something like, "I bought it before he betrayed Trump." Who the hell knows what's going on in the heads of Trump supporters, to be honest. Of course, Musk still has an army of fans ready to stand by him no matter what. But as journalists jokingly noted, this standoff now looks like Godzilla versus Kong, and ordinary people are better off not getting caught in the middle. Musk risks permanently ruining his relationship with the ruling elite, and in the long run, this threatens at the very least lost opportunities. Let's remember, for example, that Trump previously lobbied for a favorable decision for SpaceX from NASA and the Pentagon. Now, if the conflict continues in this vein, he'll probably have to forget about that kind of thing again. If the conflict reaches a deadlock, Musk could face truly difficult times, from being forced out of his own companies under pressure from shareholders and the government to considering moving his business abroad. As for Donald Trump, many observers believe that the cost of this quarrel for him are no less, if not greater. Yes, in the short term, the president is showing strength. Punishing a wayward oligarch is sure to please a portion of his base. But in the long run, Trump may pay a high price for destroying his relationship with Musk. First of all, by quarreling with the world's most famous tech entrepreneur, Trump risks completely losing the support of that segment of the electorate that values innovation and common sense, or at least, as they understand it. In short, the youth and the tech bros, for many independent voters, Musk was seen as a kind of good billionaire and outsider, successful, a bit eccentric but smart. Now, however, he has effectively been declared an enemy of the regime. This could scare off moderate Republicans and swing voters who, under other circumstances, might have supported Trump. Secondly, Musk's financial and media resources will shift to the camp of Trump's opponents. Elon has already promised to cut back on donations to Republicans in the future. His enormous audience of 220 million followers is a powerful megaphone, which from now on is more likely to work against Trump than for him. As Reuters notes, a prolonged feud with Musk threatens to cause a split within the Republican camp itself and could complicate life for the party during the elections. In Congress, unity is already starting to crack at the seams. And Musk's outbursts have encouraged the fiscally conservative wing of the Republicans to rebel against Trump's populist bill, putting its passage in the Senate at risk. Thus, the president risks being left without his main legislative achievement, which would mean suffering a serious political defeat. That's if Musk doesn't switch back to the Democrats altogether. He's already gone back and forth several times. I wouldn't rule out that possibility. And let's not forget that Musk personally controls one of the most influential media outlets in the US, Twitter. The reputational blow to Trump is also obvious. The situation with Musk shows that there is discord within his administration. Just yesterday, he was praising Elon as a genius and entrusting him with a piece of the state apparatus, and today he's smearing him as an enemy of the people. For centrist voters, this is a signal of inconsistency and chaos. The Democrats already seem to be rejoicing. As New Republic aptly noted, the strategy of letting them fight while we step aside is bearing fruit. Remember I told you my theory about why the Democrats have been so passive since the very beginning of Trump's new term? Obviously, they listened to Yevgeny Roizman, who has always preached the principle. The main thing is not to get in the way of idiots. Because they're keeping their distance, Trump simply doesn't have the physical opportunity right now to blame everything on the Democrats, even though he often tries. Instead of fighting Biden and external enemies, Trump's White House has basically gotten involved in an internal feud with its own former advisor. Such a picture is unlikely to earn Trump any points. Biden and the Democrats will surely seize the opportunity to show that Trump can't even get along with his own people. How could he possibly run the country? Although I'm not so sure about Biden, it seems to me that he's already kind of written off. And in general, it's important to understand that more and more of Trump's own supporters are dissatisfied with his administration. For example, people in the Pentagon are unhappy with Pete Haxton because he's just an idiot who's ruining everything there. Billionaires who supported Trump are dissatisfied with his economic advisors. The tariff policy is just madness, which almost no one supports. So Musk isn't just the first sign of trouble, he's a big black swan. Finally, there are also direct electoral risks. If Musk seriously decides to take revenge, he could, for example, support an alternative Republican candidate in 2028 or even nurture a third force. He has already hinted at creating a new party for the 80% of normal people, as he put it. And although for now it's just a poll on social media, the very fact is worrisome for Trump. Musk published this poll during their conflict yesterday. He's unlikely to face any problems in the party's internal primaries. His core voters are loyal to him. This is about Trump. But in the general election, every percentage point counts. If Musk pulls away even a couple of percent of the votes, whether as a hypothetical libertarian spoiler or by lowering turnout among right-leaning tech enthusiasts, it could cost Trump the victory. For example, what if Musk hadn't poured well? How about Trump? Trump can't exactly run for a third term, but what if he wants to, or if he has some kind of proxy candidate and so on? In short, if Musk hadn't poured millions into the 2024 campaign and supported it in the media, it's not certain that Trump would have won at all. Here I agree with Musk. Now, however, Trump has lost that support, and in a scandalous way. As a result, Donald Trump may have underestimated Musk as an opponent. By losing such an ally, he gains a powerful enemy, and at the same time gives people reason to doubt his own managerial abilities. For now, the Republican establishment has rallied around the president against the traitor Elon, but we'll see how things turn out if the conflict starts to harm the economy, for example, by hitting the stock market or slowing down space projects. The balance of power could shift. Trump has bet on using force to suppress Musk, putting not only the future of SpaceX at stake, but also part of his own political fate. Meanwhile, the White House is making a great effort to smooth over the conflict and reconcile everyone. But how do you put accusations of pedophilia, for example, back in the bottle? It's not very clear. On the other hand, in the modern MAGA discourse, pedophilia isn't seen as something entirely bad, which is, of course, shocking. So what do we have as a result? The most entertaining scenario is that the conflict will only continue to escalate. Trump, emboldened by the support of his camp, actually begins to take punitive measures. He terminates contracts with Musk's companies, launches investigations against him, and publicly humiliates him in every speech. Musk, sensing the threat, doesn't just sit back either. He might start deliberately targeting Trump through Twitter. Exposés, leaks, insider information, and new scandalous accusations all the way up to Epstein Gate. It's possible that Elon will invest resources in creating an opposition within the Republican Party itself, or support Trump's rivals in the elections. Things could escalate to a complete break. Musk, for example, might move the headquarters of important businesses out of the US to more neutral jurisdictions. In short, the relationship could deteriorate to the point of mutual hatred, where both act on the principle of cutting off your nose to spite your face.
25,000. And we're going to figure out why there's such lawlessness in the country. 25,000 are expected. That's the whole army in the whole country. Anyone who wants to, join us. We need to put an end to this mess.
This is fraught with serious upheavals, from economic ones like a worsening investment climate and market declines due to unpredictability, technological ones, such as delays in the SpaceX project and a reshuffling of influence in the IT sector. In the extreme, one of them might not be able to take it. For example, Musk might sell his assets and leave the US, maybe even to an adversary like China, or Trump might try to legally force Musk out of major businesses. Such a scenario is essentially a war of attrition, where there may be no winner, and both sides as well as those around them will suffer. Good luck to both sides, as they say. There is a boring scenario that, although only temporarily, could ease the tension or reconciliation attempt. The parties might come to their senses. Musk will look at the downward trending charts, Trump at how everyone is laughing at them, and they'll find a way to save face and de-escalate the conflict. It's no secret that in politics there are no eternal enemies. Trump and Musk could very well reach a behind-the-scenes agreement. For example, the president might slightly adjust his bill, removing the expenses that annoy Musk the most, or on the contrary, adding something beneficial for Tesla. And in return, Elon would publicly ease up on his criticism and praise Trump for being willing to listen to business. There are enough pragmatists in their circles who could act as intermediaries. For example, the techno-fascist Peter Thiel, who is often underestimated and little is known about him. He is just as much a techno-fascist as Musk, and some say that he is actually the one pulling all the strings. But that's another story. There are a lot of different stories in America, to be honest, but let's not get into that. Or Bill Ackman, for example, could arrange a truce between the two egos. It's likely that many in the Republican elite and among investors are interested in Trump, and Musk reconciling it's just too dangerous otherwise. A fight between two of their own. Reconciliation could take the form of a quiet deal, like Musk simply stops criticizing Trump and Trump lets the contract issue slide, or it could be a staged show in the spirit of a wrestling match, where the opponents shake hands for the camera at the end. Of course, there will be lingering resentment the former trust can be restored. But at least for the sake of mutual benefit and to defeat the Democrats, they might agree to a truce. As experience shows, Trump knows how to make peace with those he's quarreled with, if he sees an advantage for himself. Remember what J.D. Vance called Trump not so long ago, even called him the new Hitler. And Musk is a flexible person, even if he's self-important. So it's entirely possible that in a few weeks or even hours, we'll see a photo of them together and a statement about complete mutual understanding. And finally, there's also the possibility that someone else, primarily Trump's competitors, will use this conflict to their advantage. The Democrats, though it's unclear who exactly is leading them, are rubbing their hands in anticipation. Discord among the leaders of the right-wing camp is a gift for them. They can publicly criticize Trump for destroying the space industry and waging war on business, quoting Musk as an authoritative conservative outraged by the president's reckless economic policies. Essentially, they can use Elon's own words against Trump. Moreover, it's possible that the Democrats will try to win Musk back, since he once supported them. He voted for Obama and even for Biden in 2020. If Elon has become disillusioned with Trump, the Democrats could make a move toward him offering, for example, cooperation on climate initiatives or support for Tesla projects in exchange for Musk's political neutrality, or even his support. Of course, this isn't very likely. Musk has gotten too involved with the right wing and has fallen out with the liberal public. But in politics, anything is possible. At the very least, the Democrats will try to get the most out of this split. If they're not idiots, they'll point out to voters that even the Republicans' favorite, Musk, is turning away from Trump, although the Democrats have been very foolish and slow in recent years. So it's not a given. It's also possible that external players will try to take advantage of the conflict. For example, Beijing and Brussels might strengthen their contacts with Musk while he's having problems in Washington and offer him more favorable investment terms. We're not considering Moscow, but Brussels and Beijing are quite possible. The Kremlin, in turn, will surely launch propaganda about a split within the American elite. Overall, if Trump and Musk don't resolve their quarrel, it will keep growing, drawing in more and more participants. And who knows, maybe in the end, the third party will end up being the real beneficiary. Honestly, it would be for the best. I don't sympathize with anyone in this conflict, because Musk is one of the most rabid Ukrainophobes in Trump's circle, constantly spreading fake news about Ukraine. And the US president himself hates Zelensky and adores Putin. It would be great if they somehow destroyed each other and actual power ended up in the hands of someone like Rubio, who's also quite a character, but at least occasionally shows flashes of sanity. Dreams. On the other hand, who could have dreamed just yesterday morning that we'd witness such an amazing spat between Musk and Trump? And who before Sunday could have imagined that we'd see 500 drones destroying Russian killer bombers worth $100 million each? Let's keep dreaming, and we'll see how things turn out. And finally, for dessert, here's my crazy theory. So, I personally think that Elon Musk's leadership is nonsense and a glitch in the matrix, because his customers are people who support the Democrats, and his views on life are democratic views. On climate and many other issues, that's exactly what Musk supports. Musk has never really been part of this right-wing movement at all. He got involved in this right-wing movement out of emotion when he was really shaken by the fact that his son underwent a gender transition. One of his sons transitioned and became a daughter. And that's when he completely lost his mind. That's when he started fighting against woke everywhere, and, well, things really took off from there. And maybe what just happened has brought him back to his senses a bit. Of course, it's hard to imagine that, given the maximum mix of drugs and politics, but it's possible. And at the same time, I've read a lot, and people are saying Trump has the army, Trump has the police, Trump has the courts, Trump has everything. First of all, that's not entirely true. America's still not Russia, but still. But, here's something for you. Everyone was saying there would be a scandal between them. I was among those people. But let me give you an unexpected take from me. I think Musk will win. I mean, if the confrontation continues, I think Musk will come out on top. I consider Trump an idiot who doesn't know how to do anything. Musk, with all his flaws and quirks, is someone who understands how the media works, understands how businesses operate, no matter how much we criticize him. And I've criticized him a lot, and I will even more. Musk has built several successful businesses. Yes, some he bought, some he created himself. It doesn't matter whether they work with government contracts or without them, with benefits or without benefits. He created phenomena. He made rockets, he made Tesla and everything else. More precisely, he didn't make them himself, but he made it so that people talked about them, so that they got noticed, so that they became a phenomenon. That's why denying Musk's capabilities is strange. Moreover, there really are technofascists behind him, Peter Thiel and the others. These are people who, while not exactly in the shadows, are rarely talked about. These people want a somewhat different world order in different kinds of states. I think many people say, well, how will he go back to the Democrats? He'll just go back to the Democrats, that's all. He won't have any problems with that at all, just like he's already done before, switching back and forth, especially now when the Democrats are experiencing a crisis of understanding about what they should do and how to do it. So if someone were to ask me directly, Michael, place a bet who will win, Trump or Musk, I would definitely say Musk. Trump doesn't understand what he's saying. Trump doesn't understand what he's doing. And really, in many ways, it was Elon Musk specifically who brought Trump to victory, in my opinion. And I don't think that Trump, well, we've seen the actions that Trump himself wants to take. These actions are destroying the country, destroying his support, and so on. His ratings only start to go back up when he reverses his previous stupid decisions.